the spawn meets world, spawn meets world. When the spawn meets world.
What up, bros?
What up, bros?
And welcome to Bruh Meets World.
When it's Bro Meets World.
Your Boy Meets World fancast. I'm Siege.
And I'm your boy, T Dizzle, in the place to be.
And welcome to episode 42. Tonathy, T Dizzle, what's going
Tonathy,
on?
that's right, Tonathy in the house.
How you doing?
Yo, I'm doing good. You know what? We had our election last week.
Yes,
we recorded on election day.
We did.
There were some highs. There were some lows.
There were a lot of things.
There were a lot of things, but overall, I'm as satisfied as I possibly could be.
I am not, and I won't even pretend to be. But I will say that everyone who's looking on the bright side and everyone who has pointed out all the great work that's been done, I think that's fantastic. But it's just not good enough for me. I'm not gonna lie. It's not.
I guess the reason why I sound so optimistic is that currently, at least while we're doing this podcast, there's a lot of elections still up for dispute.
Yes.
So it's kind of crossing your fingers that things might turn out in a good way, and just hoping for the best. That's all I can do at this point.
The thing that bothers me is literally, how is this even? How are we in this place where it's it's not obvious? How is that a thing? It just doesn't.
Bruh, I'm in Florida right now.
I know.
Believe me.
God, whatever. Did you see that meme? That one meme that was Florida voting. Florida being 5 feet above water and then voting for the party that doesn't believe in climate change.
Yeah. I mean, I think as I've kind of stated here, I'm going to be moving out to California, and when I saw that Florida had nominated DeSantis to be the governor, which again, fingers crossed that doesn't go through, but whatever. It was just this feeling of oh, so this is what it feels like to be Black in America. Just being hopeful that change is going to happen, but then when it doesn't happen, just being what I was silly for expecting otherwise.
Yeah. What did I expect?
Yeah, and that's just the Black experience, as clear as it could possibly be. Just constant, oh, maybe disappointment.
Yeah, exactly. So. Anywho, moving on to other things. This episode, this is one of those memorable episodes.
Yes, and I have to tell you that this episode, I'm not going to tell you what I'm going to grade it yet, but I will tell you that it dropped a letter grade for a big reason, and that reason was, and you'll know what I'm talking about here, there is a casting issue with this episode.
Yes, I know exactly what I'm talking about.
Big problems with, and we'll do the tell me about it, and we'll wait until we get to roll call.
Well, there are a few issues with this episode of casting. This is again, it's one of those episodes where I'm did anyone pay attention to the rest of the season? Who let I don't know. It's just it would have been very easy to just change one or two names.
I have thoughts, but we'll move on.
Okay. I mean, maybe our problem is we never do the background on these episodes to see if it was a new writer or whatever.
Oh, I mean, I'm sure someone at the studio was just that guy is 38 years old. He can't be in high school, without realizing that they've already established him and built a rapport and relationships with other characters. We'll get to it, guys. Don't worry.
All right. So, are we doing the Tell Me About It?
Tell me about it. Tell me all about the show.
You know what it is? Whenever you get into that second part, it reminds me of America's Funniest Home Videos. Do you remember?
I don't know what you're talking about, but anything that puts me in the same category as Bob Saget, I'm a fan of.
But you don't remember that song? It was it's the part I can't remember it, but
the Funniest Home Videos theme song.
Yeah, Funniest Home theme. It's with red, white, and blue, America.
I don't remember this at all.
Oh my God, we have to play that.
Because I'm gonna edit it in so the viewers can hear it. But
you're the red, white, and blue. The funnest things you do, America, this is you.
The listeners do that part, but anyway, this is season 2, episode 19, Wrong Side of the Tracks. After being turned down for a date because of where he's from, Shawn begins to question his place in Corey's world. Meanwhile, in order to impress a girl, Eric learns to ice skate by audio tape.
Yeah, so that's the B plot to this episode, which my question is, why?
Well, a few things. One, I just want to say, like, let's start off with Eric and Jason, mostly because it's just fun and we have so much more to talk about. So,
well, all right, wait, hold on. Before we even get there, let's do the
roll call.
The roll call, because we have some new characters within both storylines that need.
God, I just wanted to go straight into their little story thing, but fine, I'll do it because it is really funny. All right, so roll call. First of all, we have. Let me see her name. I have it written down. Give me 1 second. Because I did.
Yeah, I don't remember who it was that Eric was trying to get with, but I know that Shawn was talking to Jill Hollinger.
Yeah, Jill Hollinger. That's what I wanted.
Jill Hollinger plays the rich girl that Shawn has a crush on.
And I was like, who's this Isabella Rossellini looking son of a bitch in 7th grade?
Yeah. She did have a very familiar face. I don't know what else she's been in. Her name is Rebecca Herbst. I think I'm saying that right. Yeah, I don't recognize her from anything else, but her face seemed very familiar.
And then we have Mindy Barnett, and that is like the girl who plays Mindy Barnett. We've seen her before, and she was not Mindy.
Really?
She was not Mindy before.
She was on the show though before.
Yeah.
She was Paula Kelly.
Yeah.
She was Paula Kelly.
That's what I'm saying.
The I'm Not a Crook episode.
She was Paula. And that really made me angry.
World. So they just moved her from one boy to the other boy. Okay,
that's what
I'm
saying. It made me angry because it was just like, how hard was it to just keep her Paula? Or
cast someone else, guys.
Yeah, or cast someone else. It's like
not that hard. Whatever. Maybe bring back one of these other girls that Eric and Shawn have relationships with.
Like, it wouldn't have made it that big of a deal, but like it just bothered me that Paula, that who was Paula previously is now Mindy, and I was like, this episode I guess you could say it's quintessential Boy Meets World, because not only is it a great story and it has really good lessons, but it also has no continuality.
Exactly. Okay, so I actually dove into IMDb because I was very curious about Jill Hollinger. She did a Sister episode.
I was going to tell the same thing to you.
She also did a few episodes of that show Brotherly Love with the Lawrence brothers.
Oh,
but
okay.
I actually recognize her from a little 90s Nickelodeon TV show called Space Cases.
Of course you do.
It was about, basically, it was like the kid version of Star Trek, and it had the black guy from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Walter Jones. Yeah, it was a great little show, and she was on it for a season. She was a cutie then, and I remember thinking she was cute. She also later went on to do like General Hospital up until the present. So
yeah. Okay, so there's that, and then we get hold on.
Oh, we Nancy Kerrigan is in this episode.
Wait! You jumped against me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Because we had to do Valerie first.
Valerie.
Monkey.
Who's Valerie? I'm monkeying this up, aren't I?
Yeah.
This is what we got warned about. I'm monkeying it up.
Yeah, no, like that's just seriously. We had Valerie, which is who I wanted to get to first, because the thing with Valerie is that Valerie is she only ice skates. Like, she's like, that's all she has time to do. She has no time to do anything else but ice skate. And then, like, right after they finished practicing the first time, she's like, hey, you want to go get some food? I was like, so you do have time.
Yeah. And by the way, Jason in this storyline.
We're going to, see, this is why I want to get into it first. Because
you're right.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's the central cast. Also, Nancy Kerrigan, honestly, the only reason this story is even like thrown into the mix is because they got a hold of Nancy Kerrigan.
Also, it's so like, it's perfectly 90s, and this is before all the drama, so it's just like an amazing episode.
She's not limping, guys.
You just look at her, it's one of those things where you look at her, you're like, you're so bright-eyed.
The future is so bright for you. You're about to get your big break, Nancy Kerrigan, and you don't
I hate
even
you
know
so
it.
much. That was not funny. I mean, it is hilarious, but it's terrible.
Too soon?
Yeah,
Too
way
soon
too
for the
soon.
Nancy Kerrigan joke? Come on, guys.
and then we also need to acknowledge we have to acknowledge this.
We have to
but
acknowledge.
I will very begrudgingly acknowledge this. So there is a character who they call Kiner, and I was
Harley
like,
Kiner.
are we just gonna say that this is his cousin? Are we gonna say that, like, I will give you like some world within where it's like the Kiner family just runs this place?
Yeah.
But towards the end of it, they call him Harley, and I was like, I will not accept that.
Yeah, they basically try to play off a new actor as Harley Kiner, even though we've had the other actor as Harley consistently throughout the show, and
Exactly.
he even comes back as Harley after this episode.
Exactly.
So
how hard was it just to say someone else? And also, I was like, you try to Aunt Viv us? You can't Aunt Viv
you can't
us.
Aunt Viv us. At least Fresh Prince told us they were Aunt Viving us. Like, the thing that's so just crazy about this is that it was clearly and this is how I interpret it, that someone at ABC pointed out that the actor who traditionally plays Harley is 40 years old, and they insisted that they try someone else, and then they could not. He couldn't join. I mean, he just obviously wasn't charismatic at all. So I think they were like, we need to pull in the other actor, whose name is Danny McNulty. Danny McNulty is the original actor. So yeah, just I don't know why he's not in this. And honestly, if you didn't have access to Harley, just make Joey and Frankie be the villains. Like, what are we doing?
We didn't. I mean, like, I understand that their whole thing is that they're henchmen, so they don't necessarily. But like, you could have had, again. Why not do the Griff thing where it's like, oh, it's a completely different person. Or
there can be other bullies in this school, especially because according to them, being a thug is like sitting a certain way.
I mean, there's an internship process.
There's an internship. Oh my gosh! All right, let's dive into this.
If you would have let me do it the way that I wanted to.
I know. I'm sorry.
So anyway, let's go back to Eric and Jason. So first of all, again, Jason is he's such a good character. He's so funny. He's like so perfect and charismatic. I'm just in love with him. I'm absolutely in love with him.
Their dynamic, I mean, there's actually a scene where for the first time, I believe, we see Jason and Eric with Shawn and Corey.
Yeah.
And you just see their mirrored dynamic with each other. And it was in that moment that I realized that Jason is the Shawn in their friendship.
Oh, absolutely.
Jason is the one who's constantly coming up with schemes and ideas. And Eric's the one who's like, oh, I don't know how I feel about that. Maybe we shouldn't. Like, it's interesting when you throw them side by side, how you're like, oh, okay. Like, I see who Jason is now. And he fulfills that premise. Throughout the episode.
The thing is, Jason understands his role. Like, where we have in this episode, Shawn is like trying to discover himself and figure out, who he is. Jason is secure that he is the number 2 in terms of looks, but the mastermind behind it all.
He's also the most secure male character that I think we've seen in the whole show.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder if that has to do with his height, because he is just like 100% secure in who he is. This boy is like, again, he's smooth as peanut butter. And
there's a line with, again, I don't know how well this ages or not, but Corey and Shawn are like, what about you guys? You don't have girls. And then they're like,
we hunt when we need.
We hunt when we need to hunt. And then they see a girl walk by, and Jason goes,
rabbit season.
I know. I love him.
I don't know how I feel about it, but it's hilarious.
Again, it's probably not saying the right message. I had the same feeling, but the joke is just so well done. And then additionally, what's interesting to me is it would make sense just because of like even the type of person Jason is, that he would be the one going after the girls. But it's so funny that the show immediately has him back down and push up Eric as the prize. Do you know what I mean?
Well, I thought it was just really like, because as soon as they go into this interaction with Valerie, they realize she's like, all I do is skate all the time. And Jason, like the wingman we all need but don't deserve, in an instant, points to Eric and goes,
it's amazing you two haven't seen each other there already. Huh? Eric skates. And since you skate, you both skate, you could meet each other there, right, Blades? Yeah.
And I'm just like, yo, this is the kind of friend you need around. Someone who's gonna see that opportunity when you miss it yourself. You
Exactly.
know?
Well, so what I want to point out is we are not supporting gaslighting women because that is terrible.
Yeah, and that was my
this
next note.
Yeah, I want to say I don't.
I was like, how do we feel about Eric and Jason blatantly lying
I
to this
don't
girl?
like the fact that they are gaslighting, but I am with you on the fact that Jason just comes in. Not only does he like say, "Wait, he's there all the time. I'm surprised you don't see him." He gives him a nickname. He's like, "Come on, Blades." And I was
Come
like,
on,
"This
Blades."
dude has backstory in his lie. I am here for Jason."
Question though,
Yeah.
how do you? Because obviously we know how this story plays out.
Yes.
Do you feel as if this was Jason setting himself up from the beginning?
So that's what I was gonna say. It's like it's funny to see that as I said, he kind of backs down and he like promotes Eric. But I could see it going one of two ways. I can honestly see Jason being the type who's just like, look, she's clearly gonna go for Eric first. I get it. I'm the short friend. So what I'll do is I'll make the best of getting Eric and then just like he's kind of like that what is that thing that like rides on the underbelly of the shark? I can't think of it.
Yeah.
It's just kind of like that kind of relationship. But I can also see him being thinking that and then thinking one step further and being like, all right, so this is how I'll do it. When Eric like of course messes this up, I'm gonna go in and
well,
in
I mean, for those who haven't seen the episode, Jason comes up with this brilliant plan to give Eric a "Learn to Ski in Your Sleep" cassette tape, which was actually Jason's mom's weight loss tape that he replaced all the things that have to do with weight loss with skiing, which Eric points out, wait, isn't your mom huge? And then Jason says, yeah, took her only 8 weeks. What is the show?
But what's interesting to me is the fact that they play us the tape and it is literally Jason speaking over this weight loss tape. And I was like, so Jason sat here and listened to this tape and recorded over it. Mind you, this is before GarageBand.
Like, he put so much time into this.
This is what happens when you don't have the internet.
Yeah, and that's why I was just like, for a person who put that much time into making a 2-sided tape, you know how long a 2-side? That's an album. Like it's he put so much time into this. He had to know what the end game was. Because also what's strange is that all right, so through this tape, Eric develops some kind of strange skate-related eating disorder. Which I don't know how Jason ever finds out about it, but he's so quick to use it against Eric.
Again, I think, and this is where I was saying, I think that this is the part where I was like, he understood the full story. Like, he was thinking big picture.
Yeah.
Because you're right, he shows up with food. It's not like he stumbles upon this. He shows up with food. And it's just like, he doesn't even turn around when he like shows it in the epilogue, you know?
Yeah, I feel like there was maybe a scene where Jason got hip to what Eric was going through, and then they cut that and just went straight to the joke.
No, I like this part way better.
No. I think it works really well too. It's just so, I was like, at the end of this, I was like, well, I mean, the last scene of the show is just Jason being the classic fuckboy that he is, exploiting his friend's eating disorder that he is responsible for so that he can move in on his new girlfriend on their first date. Jason is trash.
Jason is absolute trash, but he is fun trash to watch.
Yeah, he is.
And
he's
it's
great.
literally just the fact that he's adorable that just makes it that much better. I think... Now that I just said that, I think part of Jason's charm is the fact that he's the short, funny guy. Because if he was tall in this way, I would probably just see him as a douchebag.
He would be too obnoxious.
It would be too much.
Yeah.
It would be too much.
But I don't know. Like, yeah, I somehow, like, at the end of this episode, he's definitely, like, an asshole. But I'm just like, Jason, you wily son of a bitch. Jason. You got him.
Exactly. Okay, so let's get into... From there, let's get into the main story, which is Shawn's identity crisis.
Yeah, so Shawn, this is actually something that we've seen and we're going to continue to see.
Yes.
Which is just Shawn feeling so just insecure about his family and his home dynamic, that literally one girl said something to him and his entire like ego fell apart.
Well, let's not forget that, and I want to make this very clear. It is something that we've all had to deal with. Like, one person saying something and having a ripple effect throughout the rest of your life is very true to real life. And it's just really upsetting because everything that they point out about Shawn is true. Like with I'm talking about Corey and Mr. Turner. You know, it's like there's so much more to him. We saw last week that he's literally like a trailblazer in his family in terms of caring, in terms of being intelligent, and he just can't see that because he's reduced by what's her name, Jill and Mindy.
Well, this is kind of the question I had, because like when Shawn gets the episode starts with Shawn getting a date with Jill, who seems very excited at the time. And then Shawn and Corey kind of talk about how, this is a different kind of girl for Shawn.
Yeah.
But the only problem I had is that as far as I know, we've only seen Shawn hook up with like the most popular girls in his grade. So why all of a sudden are his past flings kind of looked at as trashy, and this girl seems
because
so much...
she's refined and together and high class. You can tell
by the ridiculous Miracle on 34th Street doll.
That's what I
coats
said.
that
I was
they
like,
were
what's
wearing?
with you like the Isabella Rossellini put together?
Why are
Again,
you
even
raiding
like
the
this
Heather's wardrobe
Hillary Clinton type? That's like what Mindy's going for, and I'm like, why are you like this in 7th grade? Calm down.
It seems like such a like a weird attempt to kind of place them in a different tax bracket. The other thing that's just interesting is that, and I wrote this question down, and maybe you can give me some insight if you felt this. I feel like there's a difference when like one family makes more money than another family, but when you all go to the same high school,
that's what I was just about to say.
All zoned in the same district. It ain't that different, fam.
That's exactly what I was about to say. It's like they're like, she's such high class. I was like, she's going to the same public school that you do. So...
yeah, she's not in private school. She's not. No, she's at John Adams High with every other person who gets the intern to be thugs. Like, she's not special.
Yeah, but again, let's remember that this is high school, and it's only with age do you realize all these things. And you're
sure.
You're like, that doesn't even matter. I remember, like, I used to tell people all the time, like when I went to college, you'd have those guys who'd be like, oh yeah, my dad can do this, or we have this amount of money. And I would always be like, if you can tell me how much money you have, you don't have a lot of money.
Yep. I just don't remember like people talking about like their family's income that much. Like, I don't recall those conversations happening at all. But
it probably didn't. But like, also in our high school, I'm not gonna lie, there is a class divide, and I think about this often when I think about high school. It was so obvious yet subtle in the distinction. Like, our group was in fact the ones where they were a little bit more refined, and maybe not everyone were in the same tax bracket, but it's like there was a class divide in our high school. And it's just very obvious. Even when you look at like the different popular groups, this was like, there was just,
sure.
Yeah, I'm just not going to go too far into it, but yeah.
We get to this really interesting story point where they have the boys, they have this assignment to do biographies.
Wait, just when they do the biography thing and they're picking people, what I think is hilarious is you do feel this setup come on when Corey's like, I can pick anyone. He's like, anyone at all.
Anybody? Anybody. Absolutely anybody? Absolutely anybody. I pick Shawn. I pick Corey.
You walked right into that.
I did, didn't I?
Which I love. I think it's such an interesting way for us as an audience to kind of see them dive into each other's characters a little bit more. Like, there's actually going to be some growth. Like, as soon as they got assigned to each other, I was like, oh, they're going to have to actually dig deep and ask each other some questions that maybe they haven't asked before. So I thought that was going to be a real great growing moment. My only thing is that, all right, so Topanga says that the person she has decided to do her biography on. Keep in mind, Topanga is our woke representative of the show.
Katie Couric.
Katie Couric.
Yeah.
She couldn't do Ruth Bader Ginsburg. She couldn't do Coretta Scott King. Like, why did she choose?
I think now it would have been Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I do think that would have been the modern version. But
how was Katie Couric I don't remember her being a person that Topanga, as we know her, would look up to. This is the Topanga that goes to New York Christmas shopping with her dad. This isn't the Topanga.
I'm going to say that Katie Couric does have. She was a trailblazer in her own right. Again, she is. I think it's a little dismissive, very much like Corey does. Just like, oh, she's so smiley and all this other stuff. No, Katie Couric has made a name for herself at a time that was predominantly male driven at the time, and I think that Katie Couric has merit. Now, would I have chosen Barbara Walters more so? Yes.
Oh yeah. Barbara Walters,
like,
Oprah Winfrey. There's other examples you could have, like, if you were gonna do this. But that's the other thing that bothers me, is that we've never seen Topanga show interest in that kind of career path. Like, it would be different if Eric chose like a weatherman. That makes sense. He's talked about it. He has interest in it. I just wish they would have picked something.
We've seen Topanga take forefront in a lot of the news related things. Like she's done a few things. Like they did that interview where they got
for the sex.
Thing. She's been interviewed a few times, even when she ran for public office. It's just like she does like being at the center of a story.
Sure. So well, we'll see how that develops.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm just and that they couldn't have chosen someone else. I'm just saying that I think it's a little bit dismissive to not see Katie Couric as someone worth doing a report on.
You're right. You know what? I have not schooled myself on Katie Couric's biography. I don't know what merit's there. Katie Couric, if you're listening to this, I'm very, very sorry.
Katie Couric listens to this before she goes on.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, this is what she listens to on the treadmill each morning.
Exactly.
Katie, what up? Like, we know you listen.
Okay, so I also want to say that we can start the turned on by Turner moment, but Turner brought it this episode.
Oh, so it's not a single moment.
Yes,
it's an episode length.
Brought it. Now, okay, again, the first episode, we're just going to do this real quick. The first episode.
Turned on by Turner.
Ooh. Okay, so the tie in the first one, I don't understand what it is with this dude and these ties. It's just like, can we not get better ties? But the jeans he wears in every single scene is working for him. Good for you, Turner.
He has a solid tuck with his shirt going on.
Oh my god! Like, it's just every single time. And then the scene where they're in the hallway and he like confronts not Harley. He's wearing like this button down, and it's just like it's a little bit more business than usual. And everything's matching, and it's just working for him. And I'm like, Turner brought it. The only complaint I have is in the last scene with the purple shirt. He is gelled up like nobody's business. That hair looks so wet. Yeah, I just could not get past it.
No, yeah. I mean, I'll give it to you. Like, Turner, I think, appeared far more fatherly in this episode.
Oh my god! Thank you for reminding me, because that scene where he's like telling Kiner they're gonna have a problem in the hallway. I was like, ooh, and authoritative. Ooh, he's doing stuff.
Yeah, he definitely stepped up for Shawn, almost in the same way that Shawn kind of stepped up from him in the episode prior.
All right, yeah. So continuality.
Just kind of continuing that kind of bond that they have. But I just thought this was a real classic example, and I think we see this throughout the episode, that Shawn is just lacking father figure and just really a solid family home life. Like, that's the problem with Shawn. That's contributing to this insecurity, and that's contributing to him looking for a tribe, whether that be with Harley and them or with Corey and Turner.
Yeah, so I think it's interesting because what happens when this girl says what she does is you see the wheels start to turn with Shawn for the very first time, and he starts to pull at the strings that are his and Corey's relationship. And it starts off really small, where he's like, oh, you've always lived in a house, haven't you? And, Corey tries to downplay it. And he's like, yeah, I mean, but like, it wasn't that big of a house or anything like that. And then he's like, well, my dad's going to cook dinner. So why don't we go to my place? And it's funny that
this I wrote a note about this
Yeah, go ahead.
because Shawn basically invites Corey over, and then Corey says, "Oh, are we gonna eat that fish that your dad made on his car engine?"
Yeah.
Yo, I don't care how good of friends we are. I don't care how much I love you. If you invite me over to eat carfish, I'm not coming. Like, don't. That's rude to even ask me to come over for carfish, and then to like give me shade for saying no to carfish. Oh, damn well you don't want no carfish, so don't get mad at me for not wanting carfish.
So
that's all I got to say about
a few things. One, I disagree, and the only reason why I disagree is because Corey understands what Shawn's really saying, because that's why he tries to downplay the house thing. He understands that what Shawn's really saying is, look, we always spend time at your place. If my place is really not that bad, why don't you come over to my place? That's what he's saying.
Yeah.
And when Corey says, oh, is it going to be, that stuff that we had last time? Shawn's right. He's like, you said you liked it last time. So,
yeah, like that's true. Like,
are you lying
Corey,
then, or are you lying now?
If Corey said he liked it, then he brought that on himself.
Exactly.
I would have been flat up and said like, "Hey, there's like car fluids on my fish. I'm not feeling this." Exactly. I just would have been honest from the get go.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think this all comes with being an adult, but like understanding that no, you can go, or I would have went and been like, "Hey, I'll go," but just know that like I didn't like that fish last time, so like I'll eat other things. There are other things. I doubt it's just the fish that they're eating.
Yeah.
And even if it is just the fish that they're eating, this was about being a supportive friend in that moment. And what I have an issue with this episode is it's not necessarily that it's written incorrectly or that it's not true to the characters. It's that Corey's very privileged in this. He's coming at everything with Shawn from a very privileged point of view. And he's just like, why is this such a big deal to you? Why is money the thing that's making you have this identity crisis? And it's like, oh, Corey, you don't have an identity crisis through that. You have an identity crisis with everything else, but you don't understand why Shawn, who doesn't have the same resources and upbringing as you, would find this as an insecurity.
You know what? I disagree. I think Corey understands all of that. I just think it took him a little while to get there.
I think
that by the end of the episode, he got really hip to it. And I think him confronting Harley was kind of him doing what he probably should have done just right there at that dinner table, which was just like be there for his friend.
Yeah.
And had he done that, maybe it wouldn't have escalated to the point where Shawn's debating hitting Turner's bike with a baseball bat. But I do think Corey did come to that realization. It just kind of took him a little while to get there.
I just feel that he was pushing Shawn.
Oh, and you know what? This isn't the first time that we've seen Corey get like angry at Shawn for just having like a mental health thing that he should have just sat down and talked to him about.
Exactly.
This is all of I mean, there's a lot of episodes that come to mind when watching this episode. The Christmas episode where Shawn's family, his dad got laid off, kind of came up in this. The Cherry Bomb episode, just all these episodes that kind of like touched on their friendship kind of growing and coming apart.
I mean, I think it's important because it does show what it takes for a friendship to last, which is identifying these differences. You know what I mean?
Yeah, just these, and just like don't get mad at Shawn for figuring shit out, Corey. Like he's going through some stuff. Like take a second.
Every week, Corey has an insecurity about like his hair or about like I don't know. He's just not
Shawn has real problems.
Yeah,
like, he legit has issues. Also, this is the first but not last episode we see Shawn refer to himself as trailer trash.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. It's just like it's Corey's refusal to acknowledge Shawn's insecurities, which is, I think, the real problem.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially since Shawn's are legitimate and most of Corey's are in his head.
Yeah. Shawn's legit the best thing he's going to eat today is carfish.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, let's be a little sensitive to him.
Exactly. Well, again, and I think I think the issue comes from Corey being like, well, no, I mean, you could eat at my place and then you don't have to. And you're like, yeah, but you don't understand what that is.
Yeah,
What
and just
that
kind of
means.
borrowing bits and pieces of Corey's life to fill in what's lacking in Sean's life is not a permanent solution. And I think
Exactly.
Corey keeps trying to suggest that as a permanent solution, but Sean's under the understanding that, like, no, this isn't my life. This is just your life that I'm partaking in, and I need to have be
Yes.
whole on my own.
Yes, that is really, really important. So, from there, I want to go to.
Wait, before we leave this kitchen scene real fast, there's a moment in which Jason and Eric kind of brush by Alan and Amy, where they're just talking about, they're like, Eric's like, I'm not gonna wear spandex or something, and then Amy's like, should we look into that? And Alan's like, well, no, he said he wasn't gonna wear spandex, so
He
unless
says,
he changes his
yeah,
mind,
Alan
in
says,
which
as long as Eric's still saying no to whatever's going on, I think we're fine.
because otherwise he might be gay, in which case that'll be a real problem. Is that what I'm supposed to understand?
Yeah, pretty
from
much.
that?
It was a homophobic joke. It really
Okay,
was.
all right. Just making sure I got that understood.
But speaking of homophobia, or at least homoerotic, I don't know how to say this. The scene where we first meet New Harley, and him, Joey, and Frankie are coming out of the bathroom. I have no idea what they were doing in that bathroom, but it did not look kosher.
Yeah, something about New Harley definitely gives off of him and Joey doing gay stuff in the bathroom.
It does it not? It's not
And
just
I
me.
don't know what it is. I don't know if it's because he's younger. He's like, because he doesn't have a personality the way the other Harley does. I'm only left with his looks, and I don't know. There's definitely that like.
Yeah, I just like, again, I'm not saying anything with the looks. For me, it was definitely just the dynamic of them coming out of that bathroom. It just did not look like, I was like, what were the three of you doing in that bathroom? Like, like you've never seen Harley, the original Harley, just hang out in the bathroom with the other.
You know what it was too, is that this Harley obviously doesn't look as old as the other Harley, but because of that, he almost looks the same age or younger as Joey and Frankie, and that authority shift is there for me.
It's not there. I think
Yeah.
you get that he's trying to be Harley Kiner, but you're like, you're not, and I don't understand why they couldn't just make you your own character.
Yeah.
Because it's just, it feels like a poor imitation, and he has none of the authority. And I think they even like kind of rely on Joey and Frankie to even pull it off.
100%. Yeah, they couldn't do it without him.
Yeah, they really are the ones who, I guess, sell this whole thug life. If that's
Yeah, so basically, Shawn has decided overnight that he is not going to worry about being Corey's friend anymore.
Yeah.
That he is going to be a vigilante who destroys the library.
Yeah.
The entire, you can't get to it unless you get there through boat, is what Feeny says. The library filled with paper books is ruined because of Shawn's crime. He released all the rats in the science thing, all to try to win favor with these thugs who... the hardest thing they've done today is sit.
Exactly. And that's all they're going to do. I do like that they, this little dynamic has an internship program. I like that they're thinking ahead.
Absolutely.
The intern has to get bagels. I think, all of these things are very, very true to life. I'm here for it.
It's interesting, and I wrote this as a note later on, but I'm curious because when we see the original Harley's gang, they're not really taking part of in any criminal activity.
Yeah.
It's more just kind of referring to
bullying,
acts of violence and things like that, just kind of like alluding to them having criminal activity, mostly just stealing kids' lunch monies. But it's interesting that in this episode, where we have this new Harley, there's an actual crime that might take place, that there's actual malice going on, but it's not with this Harley that we know to be this lovable older brother character. It's with this new guy who we don't give a shit about. And I wonder if this would have even worked with the old Harley, because honestly, I can't see Harley peer pressuring Shawn to do what he does at the end of this episode.
Yeah, I guess maybe that's why they did someone different. They were like, I don't know. There's a lot going on with this particular character and storyline. And it's just, and I think it just makes it even more messy that they use Joey and Frankie, because we're like, we know you guys, and they still hit their beats, but it's just like it's a little off.
Yeah.
But I do like that, Joey's constantly like, oh wait, you're not going to challenge him on this, or like Joey is even kind of questioning like what's going on. Even Joey's confused.
Yeah, Joey has this really interesting part during the motorcycle scene where he has this little monologue about turning Shawn into a chicken.
You know what I'm thinking?
What are you thinking, Frankie?
I'm thinking he ain't got the guts, Joey.
Yeah, I'm smelling chicken. A big one. Extra crispy. I said we take him to the colonel. He'll pluck you, fry you, and serve you in a bucket with biscuits.
Ooh, I just remembered something.
And that inspires Frankie to just straight up leave for Kentucky Fried Chicken. Does not come back. He's like, oh yeah, that reminds me of something. Just leaves.
What I liked is, all right, so here's the thing. I will say, because we've talked about this, Joey is a great friend, and he may have like bad influences at times, but he is a good friend. So when Corey's like, your rat-faced friend, I was like, excuse you, sir. You will respect Joey the rat.
Yeah, I mean, I think Joey is my favorite of the three.
Exactly.
To be honest. I think he's so funny. I think he, like you said, he's such a loyal friend. But I also, again, this just seemed really because we haven't seen them actually beat thugs before. This just seemed really odd for all three of them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
So I wanted to get into, there are two things. We get two kind of lesson moments. And what makes me upset is that they undercut one, and then the second one is what leads us to the finale, which the first one that they undercut is when Corey's talking to Feeny, and Feeny says the old nature versus nurture debate.
Oh yeah, at the Feeny by the fence moment.
Exactly, Feeny by the fence moment. And I like what Feeny says, but then they completely undercut it. But again, there's something realistic about the fact that Corey would, of course, misinterpret it to mean that, he can just do whatever he wants, and that all of these arguments exist in a vacuum. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the things that they didn't really address. It's that Feeny's not wrong, but it's just that these theories don't exist in a vacuum, and there's much more to it. But for them to address the nature versus nurture debate and then have it disregarded makes that seem stupid.
Yeah.
Especially since what Feeny's point is that you can overcome whatever you're born into.
And not only does Feeny kind of insinuates that, if a person is, determined enough, strong enough that they can kind of make whatever they want out of themselves. But that's not really, and I think this is kind of where you're touching on. That's not really what Shawn does. Shawn doesn't raise himself out of that situation. He is dependent on the approval of his friends and this teacher in order for him to kind of fulfill any self-respect or self-worth. It's not something he provides himself. It's something he's still getting externally.
Yeah, exactly. It's so sorry. It is ridiculous that they would even do that to Shawn and make that argument, because I think it just perpetrates the American way of thinking, which is that, as long as you're determined enough, you can do it. Yeah, but there's a lot more than that. Determination isn't the only thing. Sometimes these are factors. What you're born into does kind of influence things. Who your friends are, which is what I think is an even better arguments this show makes later on, when Turner's like, do you think scumbags have friends like this? All of that is very, very relevant into where a person ends up. So again, they kind of address Boy Meets World does this thing where it's like they are addressing all the right things, and they're hinting at all these really, really great lessons, but sometimes the actual text is way off.
I just thought it was messy. I thought they could have, if they did another draft of the script and maybe cut out some of the skating stuff, I think they could have made a better episode that was a better representation of Shawn's evolution. Because to me, and I don't know about you, it kind of took away from it when at the end of this episode, Turner's like, do you think you're okay? And Shawn's like, no, do you think I'm okay? Like, if Shawn just said, no, I think I'm okay, like, if he kind of came to that determination on his own, I kind of feel like it would have been a more satisfying evolution for his character to find inner strength. And, but for him to still just, like, need the approval of other people, just like, I mean, getting Turner's approval is really no different than getting what's her face's Jill Hollinger's approval. Like, it's just a different person he's looking for approval from.
Yeah.
I would much prefer him kind of come to an internal source of that. So,
I mean,
that's
I
just
think I agree with everything you're saying. I just also I will say that I'm reminded that he is a teenage boy in seventh grade, so I don't expect him to get to that place yet. And we also know that we have seasons of a journey with Shawn and this whole situation.
Oh, yeah. Wait till we get to the episode where he joins a cult. Like, he is all over the place.
Exactly. So it's I think it's great because it does set up what we will have, like what will be a series long conflict with the boys, and this really having to come back to it. But I just think that their first handling of it, and not the topic itself, but just the conclusion, is very messy.
Sure. And you know what? There was one part that I wanted to bring up that I actually did enjoy from that last part, which was Shawn's kind of expressing that he doesn't know who he is, but Corey does. It just reminded me a lot of that classic moment of them at the beginning of the season where Corey's like, I don't know, he doesn't feel cool, and he's like, I don't know who I am, and Shawn's like, I'm Corey, you're Corey, I'm Shawn, that's the way it's always been. It just feels like that every now and then one of them needs to remind the other person
remind
that, like,
each other that
we're friends no matter what. And it's nice to see that the ping pong goes both ways. Shawn pulls Corey back in, Corey pulls Shawn back in. Whenever they kind of lose their way, that there's someone there to pull them back in. And so it's just really nice to see it because I feel like eventually it's just Corey helping Shawn out nonstop. So I just, the balance of it is nice.
Yeah, well, what I was going to say is that that brings us to the second lesson in this episode, which is when Corey is talking to Alan, and Alan kind of nails it out of the park. He's like, well, Shawn doesn't want to be my friend anymore. And first of all, I do like Alan's reaction. He's like, well, where's that coming from? What's that all about? Yeah. And I think that's really, because, everyone understands what this relationship between the two boys actually means. They understand how special it is. So when there's a rift in Corey and Shawn, it is a thing, it's a big moment, and I just kind of like that acknowledgement of it, first of all. But then I also really like the fact that Alan was like, sometimes people push you away when they need you the most, and I think that to me was like, all right, you got the real part, the real core of this issue. You know what I mean?
To me, that's what I marked as the Feeny moment.
Yeah.
Was your friends push you away when they need you the most. To me, that's the entire episode. That's Shawn's entire dynamic. He needed Corey as a friend throughout the episode entirely, even though Corey kind of only showed up at the end there. If Corey had kind of been a better friend to him in the beginning, perhaps Shawn wouldn't have gone to that extreme.
Yeah.
But, it just kind of showed that, once Shawn is aware that Corey's there for him, he falls back into it. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Do you have any other notes?
Not really. I guess just kind of the only other note was that at one point Corey, Harley calls Corey baboon, and Corey talks about his hair being greasy, and I was just like, this is really not working with this.
Not only that, thank you for
his hair's not even greasy, like it doesn't work.
I literally said when he was like, "Hey, baboon," I was like, "You do not get to call him baboon."
No, you have not earned baboon.
You have not earned baboon, sir.
Yeah, that's really kind of all I got.
Okay, so we got a little just to like say we did get a little bit of Topanga. That was fun. Just her.
We had a new character in this episode that we didn't talk about. Who's the little girl at the kitchen table?
Oh, see, that's so funny because you're right. Is this new Morgan?
No. Oh, that's right. It is Morgan. No, she's been on the show. I forgot that she was on the show.
I hate you so much. You're an idiot. You did
No,
all
we
of
don't.
that.
We don't get
And
New
you
Morgan
literally
until
made
next
me
season.
doubt myself. I was like, wait, who did I forget? Just because you're an idiot.
Oh man.
But yeah, yeah. So that's it. All right. So what letter grade are you giving this?
I'm giving this episode a B-.
B-. Good. I'm going to give it the same. I think it's worthy of a B-. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of great quotes. What is America's thing with insulting Canadians? Like the whole.
Oh yeah. There was that thing like, well, Canadians skate. How hard could it be? I was just like, oh, okay.
Why
That's
are
an
we like
interesting
this?
joke.
I don't understand it.
You know what? It's just nationalism.
It is nationalism, but like it's always like we insult Canada like we have got anything together. Like it's always so funny. It's like, oh
Yeah, you know what? And I feel
healthcare.
like that was more of a '90s joke anyway. I feel like Canada has kind of proven themselves to be a country of merit, like
Maybe
to
it's
Americans
just
at this point.
now I'm like they have Trudeau, and
Yeah.
so they're clearly the ones winning.
Yeah, you guys see who our commander or celebrity in chief is. Like you see it, right?
Exactly. So maybe that's it. All right. Did you have a bruh moment?
Yeah, my bruh moment was Eric and Jason blatantly lying to a girl about Eric's skating habits just to get laid. In fact,
Exactly.
Another point, Eric feels like, oh, you know what? I shouldn't do this.
Yeah.
And then the girl's like, oh man, these skirts are getting shorter and shorter. Hi, Eric. And Eric's like,
I feel
I
soon
might
I'll be
see
wearing
under her skirt.
nothing at all.
Yeah. Like I was just like, I'm kind of rolling my eyes at this whole story. I don't need it. And Jason's the only thing that saves that story for me.
I completely agree. Okay. Yeah, that's it. You want to go on the homework?
Sure. Yeah. Why don't you go first, actually?
Okay, so I kind of posted about this earlier. I am currently in the middle of my addiction to cooking competition shows. That's where I'm at. And I don't know what stage of adulting this is, but I'm firmly there. So I'm going to recommend one called Beat Bobby Flay, which is on the Food Network. It is so much fun. The whole premise of it is that the celebrity chef Bobby Flay is challenged by like an amateur, and then there's like a blind taste test, and you get to see who does the dish well. Very often Bobby Flay wins, and you could just kind of tell because his presentation, he's a professional chef. His presentation is just like out of the park, and he'll do something like really small that's like someone else didn't do. But every once in a while you do get a chef who pulls off a meal that beats Bobby, and it is, I guess it's just like the little bit of Schadenfreude that that you
Sure.
like, because it's just like, oh my god, I really do love it when they are able to beat Bobby. But Bobby is such a charming cook that you kind of root for him as well. So Beat Bobby Flay is one. And then there's also this dessert competition on Netflix called I'm trying to figure out which one I want to do. So let's just go with the Just Desserts, Zumbo's Just Desserts, which is with Australian chef. I can't remember his name. It's like Anthony Zumba or Andre Zumba. I can't remember. I'll put it in the description. But it's a very fun cooking competition. And this guy is like literally a real life Willy Wonka. Like the creations he makes are just phenomenal.
Ooh.
Like seriously, some of the things he does is just genius. And you're like, how did you do this? And so if you were like really into artistry, but then also cooking competition shows, you should definitely check this one out. The premise behind that is they have like a little challenge that they have to do to qualify for the final round. And if you make the final round, you have to if you are the bottom two of the final round, you have to recreate one of Zumbo's artistic designs, and it is usually very, very challenging. So yeah.
You know what? I think I need to get into this whole cooking dynamic that you're into. Like, I'm
Dude,
feeling this.
it's so much fun. I don't like. Here's the thing. I can't explain why, and I just assume it's like something that happens when you turn 30. You like love all these little stupid things, but I am literally thrilled by these cooking competitions. It makes no sense, but they're my favorite thing to do.
Yo, you know what? We all need an escape. We
Yeah.
all need an escape. For my homework, sure, yeah, okay. Well, as you guys know, or as I've mentioned, I have a fairly long commute to work. So I do tend to lean on a lot of podcasts.
Yes.
There's a podcast called The History of Stand Up.
Ooh.
It's a very short series that kind of goes into like I think it's only like 6 episodes. But it's fascinating. If you're into like the nuts and bolts of stand-up comedy and kind of its rise in television and media. It kind of goes through the different comedy booms that we've had throughout the decades. Talks about some of the bigger names. You get some really interesting interviews and clips that are thrown in there. So yeah, if you're into stand-up at all, I'm a big comedy nerd. So I just found it to be super interesting. So yeah, it's called The History of Stand-Up. You can find it where podcasts are available.
All right. Anything else, or is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
right, that's good,
Alcohol
yeah.
is really great too, and this new
Alcohol is really great.
Let's just give a shout out to alcohol. Just
Absolutely.
as we're all dealing with different, you know, waves of sorts that are happening in this country.
Is definitely something you should try out. If you haven't, you're gonna love it.
So, like for example, if California is burning down and the president tweets blaming it on the forest system management, you might think, oh, hey, why don't I take a drink instead of screaming at my phone about this guy who is blaming the forest when people are losing their homes?
Yeah.
Alcohol, that's what it's there for.
Alcohol is there just for that one reason. Okay, thank you guys so much for listening to Bro Meets World. You can find us on Stitcher, YouTube, iTunes, Spotify, all of the places. You can find me on Twitter at Extra Siege. That's XTRACEEJ. Tonasy.
You can find me at A Braver Me on Instagram. And you can find me across this great nation as I go on a road trip next week.
Yeah, road tripping it. Yeah, so you guys just remember to dream, try, and do better than whatever else we've been.
Do better, guys.
Just do better. Yeah.
Do good, but do better. All right, because you guys have been really slacking.
All right, later, bros.
Later, bruh.